Hello, everyone. I'm the okayest bassist, and this is the BASSics Volume 29. I don't know what's going on. My mic sounds like super weird to me right now. Anyway, so this is a live stream that I do each week. It's supposed to be at the same time, typically is. This is geared towards newer players, but I talk about some stuff, and other people come on that talk about stuff that's way over my head. So there we go. Um, what I have today, I don't have anyone who's able to join. So I started trying to think of what's something else that I could cover on my own. And what I came up with is things like needed gear, things that you should make sure that you have. Um, so if you're going, and this isn't just for bass, but it is very much bass centric. So put simply, this is gear I would heavily recommend that you make sure. Ooh, that was a rumble hitting a bass. These are things I would definitely make sure that you pick up if you are going to be playing really any of the stringed instrument kind of stuff. Um, excuse me. But most certainly, anything that I would recommend that you grab if you're going to play bass, but guitar and all that as well. So I have a few of them sitting here. Some of them I can't show you. One, the first level, I guess I would say, of everything that you need to have. Um, Turn up the volume. Hey, there we go. I can hear me better. Excuse me. My kid gave me a cough, and it's allergy season, and it sucks. So one thing I definitely would recommend that you have is a simple pair of wire cutters, tin snips, whatever you want to call them. When you're changing strings, you're going to want to be able to cut those. Yes, I know on like guitar strings, you can just spin them in circles until they break. I don't think that works on bass strings. Eventually it would, but I would recommend having a simple pair of wire cutting pliers. Just wire cutters would be best, but if you have like a multi-tool, of course that would work. Also for string changes, however you would want to use it, I would recommend grabbing one of these, which is a tuning machine chuck bit, whatever you want to call it. Now it won't work on a headless. There's nothing there for it to grab. Um, but for something like this Ibanez, the Sire, the Close, they have the tuning machines. This has different sizes, so if it's like a classical, see if I can get the light on. There we go, right off of my bald head. If you have a super narrow classical tuning head, it can go in there. And then if you have the more modern, it'll slide inside. That from my experience, that typically only works with like guitar, that sideways one. Um, and it does, they typically come with a hex. So you could put this in a drill, you could put it in a driver, like a hand driver. The other thing I would say, if you change a lot of strings, like I do, you could pick up, it doesn't matter what brand, but just a simple little screw gun where goes either way. This one happens to be magnetic, so you can put the bit in there and there it is. So then if you need to add tension, or like when you're changing out strings, you can do that, and that's going to do it way faster. Don't overdo it. Don't crank your strings so that they're an octave higher and then snap your string. But this thing was a gift from my wife for Christmas, and it's amazing. For changing out strings, to be able to take all the tension off the strings, to remove them, and then to put the bulk of the tension on the new strings, saves a lot of time, saves hand fatigue. Not so much on string changes, but if you are going to do your own setups, then the next thing I would recommend, now this one is a way bigger set than what you would need. This is just a little tiny precision screwdriver. That's just a driver handle. It does have the bottom that allows you to keep pressure on it while you use the screwdriver. Uh, this particular one has where you can pull this back and then that extends, but you can lock it into whatever size you want if you want it longer. This is actually a phone repair kit. I believe I found this on it's either AliExpress or Temu for like $5-10. It came with a whole lot of extra stuff. Like this is a flexible head you can put in if you're trying to get something screwed in at an awkward angle. It also had like tweezers and tools used to separate like phone screens and stuff, things that you don't need in this case. But the other side is where it is important. On the other side, you have all of the bits. That a little closer, you can see they're organized. They're saying what size they are. You have a picture in case you can't quite tell what kind of bit it is, especially at the small sizes. Again, this is way more than what you need to work on and do a setup. I think there are maybe 5 bits in this whole set that I regularly use. A number 1 or a number 2 Phillips. You're going to use a hex, typically like a 1.5, to do the adjustment on the saddles. The Phillips is going to be to adjust if it has and of course I have a base with me that isn't going to help with any of this explanation. Anyway, you could get just a small screwdriver kit and it'll be plenty for what you need. Just make sure that it has hex bits. Again, the most common I see for doing the setups is like a 1.5 millimeter. And then as long as it has a number 1 and a number 2 Phillips, you're probably pretty well set. Now different headlesses like this that has the hex there, you'll probably, I mean, most of your bases like that'll come with a hex wrench, Allen key, whatever you want to call it. But this also has those. Now, of course, if it's an Allen wrench or Allen key, you have all that leverage for the arm, whereas this is a standard screwdriver, so it's all straight on, so good and bad on that. Either way, definitely something I would recommend that you have. You can watch the video I did, or you can watch a competent person do a video on it, but putting the setup on your own base, learning how to do that, or at least do a rough setup, well worth it. You're going to save a bunch of money, and if you can get it good enough, then cool. And if you can't get it good enough, then you're going to need help with it anyway, and it could be beyond your scope. It could be that you're trying to do a setup and it turns out your neck needs shimmed, or right now on this sire, I have all of the action all the way up, basically as far as I'm comfortable putting it, worrying that the screws may fall out the bottom of the saddle, and that is still getting string buzz. So I don't know if it's a problem with the nut. I don't know if it's everything that I've done is about as much as I can do, but it definitely isn't the truss rod or any of that. So I'm probably going to take that to a luthier friend of mine, Sweetwater, from whom I bought the sire. Said they will cover the costs to get it done so that, you know, it's good and playing. I just have to figure out when I can get it over there. Excuse me. So those are a couple of simple tools. Now for, in general, pick, plectrum, whatever you want to call it. Even if you're a bassist and you're only going to play fingerstyle, having one around can be fun if you end up wanting to play a song that uses a pick. I'm not saying you gotta have one, but again, don't say you have to have any of these, but they'd be helpful. Another thing, whether you're a bassist, it's more expensive, but bass or guitar, whatever, always have an extra pack of strings. If something happens where a string breaks, way more common on guitar than it is on bass, but if your string breaks, or if your strings are super dead, or someone's running through your music room juggling razor blades, I don't know. Something happens where your string gets damaged, broken, unusable in some way. Have a pack of strings handy so that you can change them out. If you're the person who I never change my strings, I like them old, I like the sound that gives them, cool. Um, Maybe have an extra set of strings around, and every couple weeks swap the strings so you have a dead set of strings waiting in the back so that you don't have to break in that new set. Or have the extra set of strings, open them up, let the air get to them, and then put them on some bass, tighten them up, get them about a step and a half higher than they need to be, and let them sit out for a little bit. At least just wear them in if that's what you want, but have an extra set of strings. That way, if something happens, you can still play, and you're not having to worry about either going to get a set. What if they don't have what you use? The ETB 92s that I use, the tape wounds, some places have them, some places don't. For example, Sweetwater does not carry them regularly. It's a special order, so it takes a week or so to get them. I have a horror story of one that got ordered and then got lost by USPS, and it was 3 weeks before the strings were found, and by then I'd already ordered another set. It had all been taken care of, and then they got to me like 2 days later. But anyway, that's the Postal Service, not Sweetwater's fault. But just have an extra set of strings if there's something particular you like. Now, if you switch strings all the time from one brand, one type, one gauge, one finish, whatever material, then just have an extra set of who cares. But if you're like me and there's a certain type of strings you like, make sure you have them handy. Um, that's something I would say. Now, outside of tools, outside of your general, normal, everyday sort of stuff, there are more. A tuner, clip-on tuner. I like clip-on tuners. I know plenty of people who don't. I like clip-on tuners because you just slap them onto something, turn them on, and you're good to go. I don't use mine near as often since I bought. You can't see it, but it's like well, you can see the corner of it right there. That is an orange Crush 50 Glen Hughes special edition, so it's purple. It has a tuner built in. I find that tuner seems to be a little more precise than the clip-on. But I also have the Snark rechargeable because I can take it and I don't have to keep buying CR2032 watch batteries. Other things, obviously, you need a cable. You need some sort of amp. Now, these are the Spark Neo by Positive Grid, so they are a plug-in amp that you can use for your instrument. Now, I'm currently using them through my audio interface so that I have a wireless connection to monitor myself. But you need some sort of amp. If you're playing acoustic, then whatever, you don't need an amp. But if you're playing an acoustic bass, why? Why? You have a uke bass? It's kind of cool. But why? If you don't have an electric bass, then I don't understand. You'll need some sort of amp. You'll need a cable, or in this one's case, you need a wireless system. I have a video. You can find it somewhere. I do a wireless system comparison. I think it's 4 or 5 wireless systems I compare that go anywhere from the $30 range to $150. There's not a huge difference between them. I personally like the ones that use USB-C to charge, just because that's the cable I have for everything, because that's the cable everything uses now. But beyond the bare bones basic, you need some sort of bass. You need an amp. You need a way for the signal to get from the bass to the amp, whether that's an actual cable, whether it's a wireless system, whatever. Or Spark Neo, had these things been around and existed when I started with bass, I don't know how that would have worked, because then I would have had all of it right here. I could have just plugged it in. I didn't have to worry about portability. Granted, I would have wanted something to play out loud because my kid likes listening to me play bass. He doesn't have a very discerning ear. He thinks I'm good. He's wrong. But anyway, so you need a bass, you need a transmission system, whether that's a cable or wireless, and an amp. These are the minimum expectations to be able to play an electric bass. But outside of those things, clip-on tuner, pick plectrum, then you come to the tools. Again, something to cut strings, wire, whatever. I heavily recommend this thing. Like this little screw gun doodad, which has the fanciness of being able to turn into like the drill handle style doodad. Even has a little light. I'll turn on. Whoa, isn't that amazing? Um, I think this was $20. And then this, you can get them from all sorts of places. I think you can get a knockoff, just modeled one from Amazon for like $10. D'Addario sells one. I think it's $20, somewhere in there. Have your extra pack of strings. And then if you want to do your own setup, get your... I use this thing for all sorts of stuff. Kid toys that need batteries removed or added. All sorts of things. If I need a screwdriver, I grab that. I have regular screwdrivers out in my garage for when I'm working on something. But if I'm in the house and I just need a screwdriver, that's what I grab anyway. Those things are good, helpful tools. A headphone amp, even if you have a regular amp, like I have the 50 watt, figure out how cameras work. I have that guy, 50 watt. I have my Spark 2 behind the iPad. That also is a 50 watt. I have both of those. They put sound out into the air. These things are nice just to be able to sit, like if I wake up early one morning and I don't want to disturb my wife who's still asleep, I can come in here, I can plug this in, and I can just play, and the string noise is not going to be enough to disturb her. As opposed to if I turn on the amp, absolutely will. When you go to the next step beyond basic and then like moderately commonly used tools, next step above that, if you're looking at, okay, so I have the stuff to, set up / maintain my bass. I have all the things that make the bass make sounds. What would the next step be? Well, outside of those things, how I typically would go about it is, okay, the next thing you're going to do is practice, hopefully. If you don't practice, you won't be good. I'm not good, and I do practice, so I'm not saying that that's the guarantee, but it's definitely needed. Next thing you're going to want is something with which to play. Some people get like the apps that teach you the reading of music or tabs, whatever. Ultimate Guitar, I know, would be one. Way back in the day, there was a program, I think it was called Guitar Pro. I had it. It was you could program songs in via sheet music or tabs, all sorts of stuff. I don't have it anymore. It was really, really expensive, and I think it was Windows only. You have all sorts of stuff like that where you can use to learn. That's your next thing, practicing and learning. So if you're practicing and you're learning, you're going to get better eventually. So when you're looking at that, what tools do you need? Well, you'll either need a computer, an iPad, or a phone. Most everyone has a smartphone, but reading on a phone, a phone's a good size, but like if you're trying to read 4 or 5 lines for tablature, or if you're trying to read sheet music, it's going to be really tiny on that screen. So unless you're looking right down at it, you're going to want something with a bigger screen. Now, granted, you could get an iPhone, and like I do with my iPad, you could get, if it's an iPhone 15 or newer, you could get a USB-C hub, plug that in. You can even get the one like I have that passes power through, and then you could plug that into a monitor, and then you have it on your monitor. Works perfectly. Otherwise, get something, whether it's a computer, something that has a screen large enough that you can see the music. So now you have something you can read from. You could get paper. You could print out papers and go from that, but it's not worth it, trust me. So now you have something to read, to play along, or an app, program, video set that teaches you to play, whatever. Next comes your practice equipment. So at this point, you have everything you need. You've already got a bass, you've got a connection to the amp, you have the amp, and you have a thing to view to teach you stuff. You have everything you have to have. But a good tool is recording. If you record yourself playing, when you're playing, especially if you play along with music, I typically come in, I sit down, I make all the master sheets for the music at church. So when I'm ready to practice, I will either come in and play stuff that I know, just noodling around, or I will pull up the list of all the masters that I've made, and then I'll find that song on YouTube, hopefully in the same key. If not, just practice transposing. And then I'll have that master sheet up just so I can play along with a thing that I have the music to. Otherwise, again, Ultimate Guitar has an app. If you use a device like iOS or Android, you can pull that up. You can find other people who have made like a master sheet. They even have, if it's one that they've put together themselves, that they've gone through and done all of the instruments together, you could use that too. Whatever. Just have something that you're trying, that it doesn't always have to be new. I mean, you could sit and practice Feel Good Inc. for an hour a day, every day for a year. You're going to be probably pretty good at playing Feel Good Inc. Not really going to help you on any other song, but there you go. I'm not saying you have to go out and try a new song every single day until you get it perfect either. You could try out a new song, play a part of it that you like. Maybe you don't care about how the rest of The Chain is played by Fleetwood Mac. You just want to get the... And as long as you get that, you're fine. You don't have to learn the rest of the song. Sit and practice that little lick for a while. You play it well enough for yourself. Maybe you revisit it. It's just like anything. You learn a skill, come back and revisit what you've learned just to keep it somewhat fresh, keep the muscle memory active. But then go from there. If you're like the master sheets, I've not played every one of those songs on bass at church. I've not played every one of those songs on bass at home. I've put the masters together because I'm typically on rhythm acoustic. So I've practiced, I've played almost all of the songs. That doesn't mean that I've played it on bass. And maybe I have played it on bass, but it was a year ago, 2 years ago. So again, I just go through, lately I've just been going through alphabetically to make sure I hit every song. But do stuff like that. Find a song that you like, learn the licks out of it. If the only thing that you care about is one part of a song, learn that part of the song. If the only thing you care about from Toto's Africa is, and you don't care about the rest, learn that part. It's cool to throw out there. People go, oh, hey, I know that song. Oh, yeah? What is it? Yeah. It's one of them. Okay, cool. It's something you know. So, I mean, learn what you want. Then challenge yourself by learning more, or learning something different. There are a billion videos on YouTube to teach you how to play bass, teach you certain things about playing bass. I would love to be able to do slap, and I probably could if I took diligent time learning it and practicing, but I don't. I can very horribly play somewhat a cover of the known riff of Red Hot Chili Peppers' Can't Stop, Won't Stop. I play it well enough for me. Sometimes I'm not as good at playing it as I already am not good anyway. So I'm worser at playing it. But it is what it is. I've learned it as well as I really care. I could learn it better, and maybe one day I will. Maybe one day I'll sit down and I'll do a whole bunch of learning on how to do stuff for slap. I don't know. But I just, again, you have all your equipment that you need at this point. The next thing is practicing. This is all stuff to, if the tools don't make you a better bassist, the bass doesn't make you a better bassist. Looking behind me out of everything on that wall, this guy, that's a Gear for Music 972, that came from Johnny Dibble. They were by they were called Red Sub before. Now they're Gear for Music. I think you can get one of those, a 5-string. There's a 4, a 5, and a 6. They're multi-scale. I think you can get those shipped to the U.S. in the 4-ish hundred, 5-ish hundred range. I know they're basically the same things you can get through Temu, AliExpress that don't have the Gear for Music number. This one is an Ibanez 505E. Those I think they're typically in the 800-900 range, but they go on sale in the 700 range every now and then. Um, Over here, Court Space 5, they now have a Space 4. They're 5 to 700 depending on what you get. I mean, there are plenty of cheap bases too. I mean, you can get a Harley Benton for a couple $100. Getting a more expensive base does not make you a better player. Trust me, if that was the case, I would be an excellent player. I'm not. But the other thing I will say, especially on practice, not only do you need to practice, everyone needs to practice. I can't put money on it. I can't guarantee it. But if I was going to be a betting person, I would bet you that people like every bassist out there practices. There's nobody who's good professionals practice. Lee Skylar, however you pronounce his name, cool guy with the awesome beard. Guarantee you he practices. He's played for a billion years. He practices. Not only do you have to practice, you have to want to practice. That's the hard part. You get plenty of people who want to be better. It's like people who want to be healthier, people who want to be thinner, people who want to be better at anything. Wanting but not acting on it means you don't want that thing enough. If I decided I wanted to be under 200 pounds, I would have to eat better and exercise more. And I don't want to be under 200 pounds more than I want to eat food that I like and not exercise. So that's how it is. If you want to be a good, better than you are now bass player, you got to practice. However, if the only practicing you're doing is the same 3 songs over and over and over, again, you'll get great at those 3 songs eventually. But if you're not learning new things outside of those, how to play those 3 songs, you're not going to learn more. You're not going to grow. What's going to make you do that? That is where I think new gear really catches everybody. New gear can inspire you to want to play more. I don't know many people who get a new instrument and then put it on a stand, put it on whatever, in a rack, and they just leave it. I don't know anybody who does that. I don't know anyone who, they get a new instrument, they open it up, and they go, wow, boy, I like that. Okay, I'm going to put it over here, and I'm not going to touch it. No, I don't know anyone who would do that. That makes no sense. I mean, if you're just a collector, okay. If it's like, oh, I just bought this vintage 1950 P bass, yeah, I'm not playing that because I'm not going to risk damaging it. Okay. I also don't understand buying things that you're not going to use. I don't understand fine china. Ooh, I have these fancy dishes, but no one is allowed to eat off of them. Makes no sense. I don't have a bass that is I'm not playing that. It's just really, it makes no sense to me. I have this very nice vintage car, but I will never drive it. Okay. Do with your money what you want to do. When it comes to an instrument, if you are getting an instrument that you want to play, then you're going to play it. If anytime I get a new bass, the thing I want to do, I see that it's been delivered and I'm at work, I want to get home. I don't even want to set up all the camera stuff for the unboxing, but I do because I want to provide the content. But I want to get home, I want to open it, I want to make sure it works, and then I want to put my, ETB 92 strings on it, and then I want to play it. That's what I want to do. And when that bass is new and shiny and it's the thing I want to play with all the time, I'm more likely to practice than on a day that I don't have a new bass. I have plenty of basses, so I practice with all of them. I pull each of them down sequentially. Not sequentially. I don't have like a this, then this, then this, then this. No. But I do make sure I play each of them. The fretless is probably the least played just because I'm not a good fretless player, but it was from Sono, and it was a good deal. And I didn't have it, and it was an EHB, and it was fretless, and I was like, if I ever decide to learn fretless, that'd be the one I'd want. So there it is. But again, outside of that, all of this stuff, I make sure to use each of them. They each play differently. They each sound a little different. I set them up so they all sound pretty well the same, but whatever. Again, new gear may inspire you to play different things. I know plenty of bassists who, if they pick up a certain bass, they're going to want to play a certain type of music, certain genre. They're going to want to play it a certain way. I've heard bullies say, "Oh, hey, this bass makes me really think that I want to slap with it." Oh, okay. I mean, bully slaps every bass, but maybe there's a certain genre that he prefers to use on a certain bass because it makes him feel a certain way. I've never had that. I've never had a bass that I've picked up and I was like, "Oh, yeah, this is a no, not me." I think that's a skill thing. At a certain skill point, you start realizing this bass leans towards a certain thing. I am not, nor will I expect to ever get to that skill level. But I do have different basses that I prefer to play certain things on. And that's typically more with the difference in the sound that I hear. Oh, this one sounds deeper, so I'm going to play this song on it. All of my are now 5 strings, so I don't have anything that's like oh, hey, I need to down tune this bass, so if I want to play this song, I have a bass for it. So that's cool. But again, when new gear comes into making you a better player is only if it is inspiring you enough to practice more. Now, does that mean that, hey, every 2 months you're starting to slack on practicing, so you need to buy a new bass? If you've got the money for it, go right ahead. Or if it's something like I have the bit of a deal worked out with my local shop where I could go in there and be like, hey, I mean, half the basses there came from me, but I could go in there and be like, hey, I have whatever. I have this bass right here, retails at whatever, $900. They go used $700. You've got a bass over there at $700. So how about we trade? And usually they'll be like, yeah, sure, whatever. Like they're going to get the same amount of money out of it either way. So if you have something like that, if you're near a Guitar Center, of course they're going to say, well, here's what we would sell it for. So we can give you half. You're going to lose money on it. But again, if you have the money to keep doing that, go right ahead. If you're going to buy a $500 bass and then sell it back to Guitar Center for $250, and you're going to buy another $500 bass and you're paying $250 every 2 months, 2.5 months, whatever, $100 a month, you're basically paying to rent the next new bass, and you're happy with it. I mean, is that so much better or worse than like this close that retails for like $3,000, buying that and then you play it for 3 years? It's almost the same, $100 a month. So when getting new gear inspires you to practice more, it'll make you a better player. Having that does not make you a better player. If you get a cheap bass and you get it set up well, so it's playable and everything on it is as good as it can be, you're fine. Like you don't have having a $5,000 bass versus having a $500 bass is not going to make you as the player any better. I know plenty of people who play that can grab a $500 bass, make it sound amazing, but then you give me a $5,000 bass, it's not going to sound as good as them playing the one that they found at a pawn shop for $50. That's just all there is to it. And it's not a good thing or a bad thing. You don't have to spend money to get better. You just got to practice. Once you have the general knowledge, again, to maintain your bass, you know, if a string gets broken and you need to change the string and you don't know how to change a string, you should know how to change the strings in your own instrument. Might be polarizing. I'm sorry if that's a hot take. I'm not sorry if that's a hot take, because that's not a hot take. You should know how to change the strings on your own instrument. If you don't know how to change the strings on your own instrument, learn, because that's bad. Like if you have a bass and you're already paying $50, $60 for a set of strings, and now you have to pay somebody, I don't care if it's $5, $10 to put on new strings every time you're changing strings. Don't do just. I'm not saying you have to learn how to do your own setup, although it is good to know how to generally set up the bass for the way you prefer to play. If you prefer to have a low action, you should learn how to lower the action on your instrument. And then again, if it's something where something's wrong, then you take it to somebody. But getting new gear doesn't make you better. It can make you become better if you use that new gear to learn to be better. I've said all this in multiple ways now. But the long and short of it comes to, excuse me again. The long and short of it comes down to use what you have, get what you need. Once you have all the things you need and you know how to use them and you're doing what you have to, then go for both. Now, I'm going to go ahead and open up chat. Now, step off my soapbox a little bit here. I mean, it's my show, so I'll stand on my soapbox all I want. Let's see. There are a couple chats. Timu had a weird smell, so I stole yours. Yeah, I don't have a sense of smell, so it didn't matter. But he paid for both. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's blue. She wanted the blue. Yeah, I know SKLAR. I don't know if it's Sklar, Skylar, Sklar. I don't know. Tchakki. I don't know what my wife has smoked. Probably something, but well, she doesn't smoke. But I don't know what drugs she's doing. That her comments don't make any sense. Either that or maybe it's because of this. I'm guessing these are like emojis. I don't know. To me, it's just showing a colon with a whole bunch of words and then another colon. So, and I don't know what Tchotchke is, but anyway. So I don't see anything like additional constructive, destructive. I don't see anything like that in the comments. So, unless anyone has any questions, that's pretty much all I had today. It was, again, just going over non-gear for your gear. Things that I would recommend that you purchase. I don't have specifics like the wire cutters. These are Cobalt, and that's because I bought a whole, whatever you want to call it, house makers, a handyman home improvement kit, and that's the brand that I bought because I think they were like $80 for 100-something piece kit at Lowe's during Black Friday years ago. I do recommend the strings, but that's on every video. Diodario ETB 92, if it's a 5-string, -5, short scale -S, medium scale -M. If it's standard scale, then it's just 92. The multi-head thing, like I said, it doesn't even have a brand, but get you a multi-pronged screwdriver. This thing, I don't care about with a brand. This one's Hyper Tough because that's Walmart's brand. Hyper Tough. Like I said, it's like $10. I think that was a Black Friday thing. The adapter on the end, the bit, I think I got on eBay for like $5. So I don't have a brand thing. I know Diodario makes that tuning head bit. They probably have a small drill or something like that too. That little hand drill does come in handy for if you're going to mod your bass. I've used it on basses to like change out the bridge because you don't need a huge amount of impact. Like, well, it's kind of visible here. If I can, yeah, you can see the impact just over my shoulder. So you don't need that. You don't need that much power and torque. You're liable to take a screw all the way through your instrument if you use something that powerful. But again, it's handy. I've used it for mods because it has the ability to have very low torque and low speed so that you don't strip anything. But anyway, what is this? Tchotchke is Yiddish for things like knickknacks. Okay, good. Don't care. I don't know what that has to do with anything, but I often don't know what she's talking about anyway. So again, I don't have like brand names of anything that I would say, hey, you absolutely need to get this version of this thing. But I definitely recommend the D'Addario strings, and I definitely recommend that you learn how to set up your own bass, at least generally. And 100% I think that everybody should know how to change their own strings. If you don't, tell me. I'll make a video how to change strings. I'll make a video how to change strings in a headless and on a headed bass. I haven't done that because there's like a million videos that show that. But if you want me to, tell me. I'll do it. I don't care. But if no one has any comments or questions down in the comments, buying new gear just to look at. Yeah, I don't do that. I don't have tchotchkes. I have toys. I play with them. So if no one has anything extra, then I will call it for today. That'll be 40 minutes worth of streaming that you guys got to listen to me say about 10 minutes worth of content because I repeated everything multiple times. So give it a couple extra minutes here just to make sure that we don't have anyone throw anything in there. Check my group chat. I don't see anybody having looked at jumping in here. So that looks good. As always, I've been the okayest bassist. As always, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day.